What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Clearance Camo Podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about how the Rokman Games went when I went and attended, and then we're also going to talk about some fishing controversy and a little bit of gear that I'd recommend. So let's go ahead and hop into this. So like I said, I was going to talk about the Rokman Games. I was unable to access the games all 3 days. Friday was a little bit swamped for me. Saturday I was able to make it, and I had to work on Sunday. So when I was going there on Saturday, the temperatures were blazing, man. It was a hot day, but it was pretty cool to see. So I didn't get to see the whole course. The course was just for the shooters for insurance purposes, and I have no problems with that whatsoever. I got to see a little bit of it. I got to see some of the targets that they had set up on the hill, and it was pretty cool. They posted some videos of some of their shots, and they were pretty good shots. It was a little bit difficult for like beginner shooters. Definitely not something I would recommend for the guy who's just barely picked up a bow. A 105-yard shot isn't for the guy who's just starting, but the whole process that they had up there, it was really cool. I got to talk to a few of the vendors there, and I got to talk to some of the guys who have previously sponsored the channel. I got to talk to Amen 2 and Tops Knives. And it was really nice to see those guys up there. The whole part of the Rokman Games that I was really into was a lot of the guys there, the vendors, were local. And I don't just mean Idaho Falls area. I mean, they were Idaho vendors, like Idaho companies. So, like I said, you had Tops Knives and Amen 2, but you also had like Slayer Calls. Obviously, Rokman Waterproof was there. So, there was a lot of Idaho companies there, and that was really cool to see. Especially where that's one of the things that I like to press is going local and keeping local businesses going, and so I really appreciate that. We did stop at the Rokman Waterproof booth, and I think I was able to successfully talk my wife into letting me buy some of that, so that'd be pretty nifty. It's not going to be right now. They are kind of spendy, and I know for being clearance camo, that's not really my MO, but the thing about Rokman Waterproof is their bags are waterproof. They're not water resistant. They are waterproof. And they have a lot of things that I'm looking for, like a pocket for your spotting scope. They have a bino harness that actually connects to the backpack, so you're not having the backpack on and the harness on, so you got so many things on your shoulders. You can also get a pack frame. The way that their system works is it's like the harness, which is the shoulder straps, and then from there you build your pack from that. And so you could get your pack frame on, and then you could get like the base camp, which is the really big pack on, and then on top of that you can add the pinnacle. And so you would have 2 bags and a pack frame on, which that would be heavy, but if you're going on a multi-day trip, or if you're trying to pack all your stuff and keep it together while you're going on a boat trip or whatever, you can keep it together that way, which is pretty cool. So, shout out to Rokman Waterproof. Those packs are awesome. But anyway, we had a good time over there. There was definitely a lot of shooters, and for it being the first year, I was pretty stoked about the amount of shooters that they had. So kudos to Rokman. I'm trying to get somebody on so we can talk about the games and see how they went from their side. From my side, it looked pretty cool. So I was pretty impressed. I had my wife and my son with me. My wife thought it was really cool. My son was definitely tired of being out in the heat. But he did not like the water spraying on him. They had a little water mister thing that sprayed out. My son didn't like that at all. So he just wanted to go home, which is fine. But they had a bunch of food trucks there. They had live music. I mean, it was a pretty cool event. So yeah, keep that on your calendar for next year. Keep an eye out for the Rokman Games. It looks pretty cool. And so if any of you guys are interested in shooting competitively with your bow, wouldn't be a bad way to go. If you're just looking to go meet some of the vendors and see what kind of all these different companies are about, definitely go check that out. Um, they even had stores there that like Madison Armory, which is a gun shop out of Rexburg. They were there. Obviously, they weren't selling anything, but they were there. So kudos to them for coming. But yeah, it was a pretty good time. So I would definitely go back, and if I get a little more tuned with my bow, I wouldn't mind competing. So it looked fun. So you can also do like a scenic ride on the chairlift because it's on a ski hill. So you could do a scenic ride, and that might be kind of fun for some of you guys too. So something to look at next year for sure. But yeah, so that's how the Rokman Games went. Let's go ahead and talk about the controversy in fishing. So one of the things that's going around right now, well, it's been going around for decades. I've just been hearing about it a little bit more, is whether or not fish feel pain. And so I've been doing a little bit of research on the fish feeling pain and seeing how, why one side believes they do and one side believes they don't. And I understand why there's controversy for sure. So one of the things is that fish do have the receptors to feel pain. And depending on the species of fish would determine how many and where they are. But they do have those receptors. The thing that they don't have is a neocortex, which is the part of the brain that receives the signal from the pain receptor. And so they have the receptor for it, but they don't have the part of the brain that registers it. And so it's interesting to me how that all worked out, and doing my reading, I was seeing kind of something on both sides. So the sides that say that fish don't feel pain, those were typically from companies or people that would support fishing sports and commercial fishing and things like that. The people that say that fish do feel pain, those were typically from animal rights people or the people that were supporting them. And so it was kind of hard to find an unbiased article about the whole ordeal. And so it's just like everything, if there's something that's going to be biased, it's hard to take their word for it. And so, both sides agree that that they have the receptors. It's just whether or not the brain can register what's being felt from the receptors. Some articles were telling me that the receptors are just like our receptors for feeling pain, but they feel more of a pressure. So instead of feeling the actual sharpness of like a hook going through them, it was more so like the pressure of being pushed on. Kind of like when you're numb and getting a cavity filled, you can still feel the pressure of them drilling or whatever they're doing, but you don't feel the pain of it. And so that would make sense as well. Now, if you've ever hooked a fish, you understand that they give up a little bit of a fight. And so the question is, what causes the fight? Is it because they're in pain and they're trying to get away from it, just like we would? Or is it because they're now being forced to do something they don't want to do? With that hook being attached to a line, they aren't able to go the directions they want to go. And this is where the people that say that the fish don't feel pain, one of their arguments is, if you have slack in your line and a fish grabs your hook, they are able to spit it out without reacting. And so they wouldn't feel the pain, right? Or they're not reacting because there's no pain there and they're not being jerked in a way that they don't want to go. And then the people that say that they do feel pain are saying that they spit it out because it hurts. And so, I mean, like I said, it's a big controversy right now on whether they do or not. And from what I was reading, a lot of the studies that have been done between 1980 and 2015 were saying that fish do not feel pain. And majority of the articles I read after 2015 were saying that fish do feel pain. But like I said, they were all kind of backed by one side or the other. But one thing that both sides agree on is that letting your fish sit out of the water to die is very inhumane, and I can agree with that. That's kind of like a fish, or kind of like us drowning, but reversed for a fish. So it's not humane for a fish to die just by being set out of the water, and that puts stress on the fish that doesn't need to be there. If you're going to kill the fish, you should do so quickly and ethically, and so that's why billy clubs are a thing. That's even why it's a law. Well, it's part of why it's a law for certain game fish. The other part is so you're not releasing a big or a smaller fish because you caught a bigger one. Yeah, so that's a whole nother ordeal. Now, one of the things that I wanted to bring up on this was catch and release fishing. So, whether or not the fish feels pain, is catch and release fishing still ethical? So, regardless of whether they feel pain or not, they're still stressed when they're being hauled in, when you're reeling them in, or when you're fighting with them. You're still stressing the fish out more than it really needs to be stressed out. And so, is it really ethical to fish for sport versus to keep the fish? Now, I get that there's people that fish for sport and keep the fish, and that's awesome. Personally, I don't like to catch and release fish. If I don't have to release it, I would prefer not to. And the reason being is because you're putting that fish under stress. And, a lot of these guys, I've been seeing a lot of videos recently of these bass fishermen. They, catch a fish and they just throw it, making it do a backflip back into the water. And it's like you just really are just stressing that fish out way more than it needs to be. You see a lot of trout fishermen, especially fly fishermen, when they release their fish, they basically, once they get it in, they take their picture or whatever they got to do, get the hook out of it, and set it in the water and let it regain its strength and let it go back in at its own pace. They don't just throw it back in. If you're going to catch and release, I suppose that's the way to do it. Give it as much time to recover as possible, or as needed. Another thing for catch and release is if you're going to do it, you really should be using the barbless hooks or squishing your barbs. You don't need to be pulling that barb out of it for it to just bleed all over and you're just going to throw it back in the water. If your goal is to put it back in the water, or if there's a possibility you're putting it back in the water, I believe you should be using barbless hooks. But that is my personal opinion. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to fish. I'm not here to tell you what your code of ethics should be. I'm just telling you where mine are. I believe that catch and release fishing puts too much stress on fish, and I also believe that if you're going to do it, you should be using barbless hooks. Now, with all of that said, and my opinions out there, I would like to move on from that topic because, you guys can do your own research on it and you guys can figure out what you want to believe. But, I'm still on the fence whether or not fish feel pain. But I'm not on the fence on catch and release fishing for sport. Personally, I'm against it. I'm not going to tell anyone that they shouldn't do it. I'm just going to tell you that it's not my style. But, that's kind of like the guys that are using, a spin rod versus a bait caster. Whatever's your style, let you do what you want to do. So yeah, anyway, let's move on from that. Like I said, we were going to talk about a little bit of some gear. So within the last 2 weeks, a little over 2.5 weeks, I have broke 2 fishing rods. and I'm not entirely proud of it. Both of which were a bonehead move on my part, and they both could have easily been avoided. And so I broke a light action Fenwick rod, and they do have a warranty on it. Anyway, we're working on trying to get that all figured out. And then I broke my TFO 5-weight 9-foot fly rod, and that happened this morning, and I'm a little upset about it. I called TFO to see if they had a warranty on it. Now the rod's a little bit old; it's a few years old, like 7 years or so, maybe even more. And so they told me that they wouldn't be able to warranty it, but they guided me through the website to find the parts for it. Unfortunately, it is the one part for that rod that is not in stock. So if I wanted to send it in, it was going to be about $60. If I wanted to buy the part, it was $20. So I'll just have them notify me when that part's back in stock. But yeah, so the gear that I would like to mention for that, though, is called a sun strip. Now, I've been playing with this sun strip since I've been to California. If you guys remember my talk about going to Yosemite, I've had the sun strips just before I went on that trip. They are really nifty. Now you can look at them up from rigstrips.com. Strongly recommend you check them out because they have other strips too. But this one is a sun strip. I have the magnetic ones, so you can just set it on the side of your vehicle as long as your vehicle is magnetic. Now they don't work on the aluminum vehicles, but as long as your vehicle is magnetic, you can set these on the side, and they're really nifty because you can just set your pole up. They've got a spot for 7 different poles, and they can fit freshwater or saltwater poles. You just set it up, and then you don't have to worry about closing your tips in your tailgate or in your car door. They're vertical, and they're not going to slide down and scratch your paint. They protect not only your gear, but they also protect your vehicle. Now, the cool thing about the sun strip is it's really kind of targeted towards people like me, where I'm not just fishing. I also like to hunt, or I also like to ride my bike, or do all sorts of outdoor activities. That's the really cool thing about this sun strip. So it actually has a spot on each end that is dual purpose. Not only will it hold a fishing rod, but it could also hold a shotgun, which is really, really nifty. Or they can hold your rifles. So, like right now, I'm looking at my sun strip, and I'm putting my rifle on it right now, and it sets up just fine. Now they don't really rifles don't really fit in the smaller sections, which there's 4 smaller sections that are meant almost exclusively for fishing rods. But the 2 outer sections that it can hold your shotgun, that can also hold your rifle, or they can also hold your fishing poles. I mean, that's really nifty. There's a really big spot in the center, and that's actually to hold your handlebars of your bicycle, so you're not leaning it up against your vehicle, which is really quite nifty that they can hold that up. So I'm sure we've all put our bikes up against something and they just fell right down because there's not enough friction to hold them upright. So I think it's really nifty that with these sun strips. So check those guys out at rigstrips.com. They also have the snow strip, and then they have a bunch of other stuff there that you can take a look at. Like I said, mine's magnetic. I believe they also have one that's an adhesive. So if it's something that you're going to have on your vehicle all the time, might not be a bad idea to go with the adhesive one. So this way you can have your fishing poles up there, spring through summer, even fall. You can have your shotguns and your rifles up there through the fall. And if you're into the winter hunting, you can have it in the winter. So, all year round, you've got it on you, and you're ready to hold up whatever you need to hold up. Now, the magnet one that I have, the magnets are supposed to be rated for highway driving. And I want to say that while we were in California, we put one on my brother-in-law's truck, and we left it there when we moved from one camp to the next, and it did stay on. So I know for a fact that he still has it. So, yeah, they are super nice to have, super durable. They'll hold up your stuff. Now, I recently went through a little test with mine. So as we all know, if you leave something in your hot car on a very hot summer day, especially for multiple days in a row, things start to deteriorate and fall apart. So I actually left this sun strip in my pickup for, now it's been 2 months. And we've had days that have gone close to 100 degrees. And according to my thermometer, we've gone over 100 degrees, but not according to the weather channel. So, but it's still been very hot, definitely within the truck. It's been well over 100 degrees. And this thing is still held together really well. Now, the magnet has a foam backing, so it's not scratching your paint. That foam backing's still put on. It's still on there. It's still sturdy. And it still sticks with enough force that it holds up my fishing poles. So, and I'm not like sponsored by Rig Strips or the Sun Strip or anything like that. I just want you guys to be aware of this piece of gear that I found. It's really cool. And so, check those guys out. They're a Colorado business, so and it's a pretty small business right now. So check them out. Maybe shoot them a little bit of support and get one of their products. They're not super expensive, but I can say that if you can save one fishing pole, it's pretty much paid for itself. So, if you break the tip off of a fishing pole, even if you're one of the guys that just puts a new tip on, between paying for the tip and then the time and energy that it takes to get that tip on, you've basically paid for the sun strip. So definitely worth it. Or if you've ever put anything on your vehicle and it scratched the paint that this could have stopped, you've paid for it there too, because if you've ever fixed paint, it's not a cheap adventure. So anyway, go ahead and check those guys out. Definitely. But I appreciate you guys for listening. By the time you guys are listening to this episode, I should be in the hospital saying hello to my new baby girl. The time has finally come where my wife will no longer be super duper pregnant, and now she'll be post pregnant. And I'll have a newborn here, and then we'll see how that's gonna do with the whole trying to get more hunting in this year. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys very much for listening. Wish me luck with the baby, and I will see you guys. I'll post it again next week. How about that? And as always, aim slow and shoot fast.